welcome to News Hour. Coming up in this edition, President Bill calls for unity and bipartisan cooperation as he opens fourth session of 6th Parliament. Pavi Fort, Sierra Leone begins survey for expansion of key highways. And Peace Commission announces plan to hold Peace Champions Awards as part of activities marking its 5th anniversary. Well, all these and more lined up in this edition of News Hour. Thanks for joining us. My name is Daphne Zainab Kamara. First on News Hour tonight, Pavi Fort, Sierra Leone has commenced survey for the expansion of the Masiaka through Makeni to Kabbalah and Masiaka through Bo to Kenema roads into 4 lanes. According to the operations manager of Pavi Fort, Abubakar Kamara, the expansion process is expected to start immediately after the survey. The project will be pre-financed by Pavi Fort, and there will be a toll gate upon the completion of the road. Here's an excerpt of the operations manager, Abubakar Kamara.
This is a new project that we are going to start soon. We already started the surveying. It's going to take from Masheka to Kenema. We are going to do it falling. And also we are going to do it from Masheka to Kabbalah. Also we are going to do it falling. It's going to be a fantastic project for both Sierra Leoneans and also people who are coming from the neighboring country, because like for this Makeni road, for instance, is very, very challenging. Every day you're having accidents. Even one of my brother had an accident here just like 3 weeks ago. So that's why we want to compliment the president for his vision. We want to work with the government so we can do exactly what is the necessary thing to keep people safe after we finalize everything. At least it's going to be like 5 or 6 years duration, because you know it's a falling. It's going to be difficult. We have challenges. We have swamps to backfill. We have culverts. We have bridges. Not like long bridges, like 10-15 meter bridges that we have to do. So it's going to take us some time. We're going to do also another road which is going to start from Songo going to Tasso Highland, which everyone can use that route to go to Lungi. It will be more shorter.
Well, that was the operations manager of Pavi Fort, Sierra Leone, Abubakar Kamara. The Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion, or the Peace Commission, has announced plans to recognize individuals and institutions that have made outstanding contributions to peace building across the country as part of activities marking its 5th anniversary. Speaking in an interview with our reporter, Alwyn Roy Fox, the acting director of conflict prevention and communication, Titus Muhammad Kalon, said the move is aimed at honoring those who have played significant roles in conflict prevention, mediation, reconciliation, and the promotion of national cohesion since 1991.
I am Titus Mohamed Kalon. I'm the Acting Director for Conflict Prevention and Communications. We have been in existence now for 5 years. And along the line, we have collaborated with other partners in development, in peace building. And even before the establishment of the Commission, there have been individuals, institutions, and organizations who have done tremendously well in promoting peace, preventing conflicts, and mediating conflicts. So we thought it fits as a commission, be it our 5th anniversary, that let us recognize those people who have worked tirelessly, who have used the time and resources, who have put everything aside to make sure they prevent violence, to make sure they mediate conflict and reconcile people in community. It will interest you that most times those people might not be recognized, because it might be an old woman or man down in the smallest village in one of the chiefdoms. But we thought, because of our regional structures, we thought there are people who have done tremendously well since 1991, when the war started, to present day. How can we recognize those people? How can we bring them on board and motivate them to make sure they do more, so that other people will follow suit?
So let's come to the award program.
Okay.
What are some of the qualities or achievements will the commission be looking for when assessing these awards?
There are categories of awards. Oh, yes, there are categories of awards. You might know an individual, a man, a woman, who might be working behind the scenes or have been working behind the scenes to promote peace in his or her community. The person might be alive or dead. It might be a Sierra Leonean or a non-Sierra Leonean. You have a responsibility to nominate that person. That's why the nomination is open. So the person might be an individual, it might be an institution or an organization, it might be even a media outlet, it might be a journalist, it might be a youth group, it might be a religious leader or a traditional leader. You can nominate that person. You have what is called a National Commission Award, National Cohesion Award. This might be an institution or an organization that have actively promoted unity, tolerance, and inclusion in their community. You also have a Conflict Prevention and Mediation Excellence Award. It might be an individual organization who have demonstrated outstanding work in mediation, dialogue, and facilitation. You also have Early Warning and Response Champion Award. This might be a person or institutions who have contributed to effective conflict monitoring, early warning, reporting, and timely response. You have Women for Peace Award. Women have done tremendously well in this country to promote peace. So a woman, leader or organization who have made remarkable contribution to the peace process in this country. You have Peace Journalism Award. You have to look at a journalist or a media organization promoting responsible reporting. Those people can be awarded as well. Then Peace Education and Advocacy Award. We want to look at schools. We want to look at educators. We want to look at researchers who have contributed to the peace of this country.
That was the acting director of Conflict Prevention and Communication at the Peace Commission, Titus Mohamed Kalon. Sierra Leone's 5% rice import duty has generated significant revenue, but only a small share has reached the Agricultural Development Fund, limiting support for women farmers. This is according to a recent report by Budget Advocacy Network in collaboration with the 50/50 group with support from Christian Aid. The report, titled Making Tax Work for Women, was aimed to assess the impact of gendered Sierra Leone's 5% import duty. Esther Kamara has more.
The reintroduction of the 5% import duty in the 2024 Finance Act was part of the government's domestic revenue mobilization strategy, intended to raise funds for agricultural development through the Agricultural Development Fund, ADF. According to a study conducted by Budget Advocacy Network Band in collaboration with the 50/50 group and with support from Christian Aid, the Making Tax Work for Women report was to assess the gendered impact of Sierra Leone's 5% rice import duty. Key amongst the findings of the assessment was that rice import duty generated 365.2 million leones between 2024 and 2025. However, only 31.9 million loans, representing 9%, was transferred to the Agricultural Development Fund. Richard has said this limited transfer has reduced the policy's expected benefits, particularly for women farmers who continued to face challenges such as limited access to land, financing, farming inputs, extension services, and markets.
The next step now is how we can steer up our advocacy in terms of how we collaborate with the Ministry of Agriculture and engage the Ministry of Finance, how they can be able to, the remaining 91%, how they transfer it to the Agricultural Development Fund so that women farmers can benefit from those resources.
The study also found that the increase in rice prices following the introduction of the tax placed a heavier burden on many households, noting that many families reduced food consumption, bought smaller quantities of rice, or switched to cheaper alternatives. The report further highlighted that existing agricultural support programs often favor large producers, while many small-scale women farmers remain excluded from mechanized farming, tax exemptions, and financing opportunities.
Now, the issue of Ministry of Finance not transferring the full amount of revenue that has been collected from the 5% import duty on rice is the fact that the policy commitment with the Honorable Minister Bingi, the Parliament, is say the government of Sierra Leone will ring-fence that amount.
It doesn't mean all come to agriculture, but now government gets money from the import tax for some other critical issues that where they affect also, we own smallholder farmers.
To address these challenges, the study recommends that the Ministry of Finance transfer all rice import duty revenues to the Agricultural Development Fund on a quarterly basis. Urges the Ministry of Agriculture to earmark at least 30% of the revenue, especially for women farmers. And the National Revenue Authority published quarterly report on revenue collected from the 5% rice import duty. Stakeholders from the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Finance, and the National Revenue Authority pledged their commitment to ensuring that revenue generated from the 5% rice import duty reaches its intended beneficiaries. For SLBC, Esther Nene Kamara reporting.
Meanwhile, the 50-50 group, in partnership with Green Scenery, the Women's Network for Environmental Sustainability, and the Network Movement for Justice and Development, is implementing the Woman Land and Coal project supported by Christian Aid through the United Nations Peacebuilding Fund. Harold Williams has more.
In a bid to further strengthen women's land rights and promote peaceful and inclusive land governance through meaningful engagement with marginalized women, key stakeholders from Konol, Kailan, Port Loko, and Tonkolili districts have converged for contextual dialogue in Freetown. The need for such dialogue arises from persistent hindrances despite progressive legal and policy reforms for women to access, own, and control land. Chairing the dialogue, Aminata Kelly Lamin spoke of the need for strengthened policy dialogue and collaborative action.
If there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights. Once and for all. End of quote. Let us think about this as we progress.
Some of the hindrances to land inheritance, land allocations, including some that seem embedded constitutionally, were emphasized by the Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs, Dr. Aissata Mahoy.
Distinguished participants, this dialogue on women's land rights is not occurring in isolation. It takes place as a pivotal movement in our nation's history. Sierra Leone is currently undertaking a comprehensive constitutional review process And I want to assure you that this process represents a historic opportunity to address the very inequalities that women face in land governance and participation.
Women representing the project districts, policymakers, government institutions, development partners, civil society organizations, traditional authorities, and other key stakeholders deliberated on the challenges and identified opportunities to propose practical policy recommendations for advancing women's land rights and strengthening peaceful and inclusive land governance in Sierra Leone. The Parliamentary Gender Caucus and the remainder of government institutions, civil society, and women of Sierra Leone now have a collective responsibility to constitutionally align and enshrine gender-responsive reforms that will enable women to utilize land as an instrument of social and economic well-being.
The disappearance of coins from everyday transactions in Sierra Leone is raising deeper economic questions about the value of money over time. Once an important part of the country's currency system, coins today are rarely seen, rarely used, and often rejected. But beyond problem, what does this say about inflation, purchasing power, and the changing value of the Leone? Emmanuel Williams has more.
There was a time in Sierra Leone when coins could buy basic items such as sweets, bread, or services such as transport. Today, those same coins are almost invisible in daily trade, and many people no longer consider them useful. Sierra Leone's currency has evolved over time from early coins and notes bearing national figures like Mamioko and King Naimbana to more recent banknotes such as Shaka Steven and Baibure. Each phase reflects a shift not only in design but in value. Sierra Leone has historically recorded high inflation with long-term average above 20% and sharp increases in recent years. This means money gradually loses its purchasing power. Today, coins still exist as part of Sierra Leone's currency system, but in reality, they have almost disappeared from circulation due to their value.
People are not very much used to the use of cents. So as a result of that, when it comes to transactions, transport fare, instead of people make use of the cents, they will instead round the figure up to the whole number, ensuring that if you have to pay 1 year 25 cents, they'll just make it 2 euros automatically. Why? Because the populace are not quite familiar or getting used to the use of the cents.
In 2022, the government denominated the currency, removing 3 zeros to simplify transaction and restore confidence. But even with this change, the challenge remains. The question is, what can coins actually buy today? This highlights how inflation has reshaped the value of money over time. As coins loses relevance, businesses and consumers are adjusting, often rounding prices and ignoring smaller money altogether. From coins that once carried value to currency that is now barely used. The story of coins in Sierra Leone is not just about money, it is about inflation, economic pressure, and how value changes over time. For LCBC News, Emmanuel Williams reporting.
The Sierra Leone Bar Association has appointed a caretaker committee to oversee its affairs and organize elections following weeks of internal uncertainty. The decision made at an extraordinary general meeting held in Freetown. The move follows 2 unsuccessful attempts by the outgoing executive to hold the association's annual general meeting and conduct elections. The caretaker body comprises Usman Kamar, Chairman, Hindolo Givao, Melissa Sisay, Joseph Kapua, and Namin Bayo. Outgoing President Tuma Adama Jabi described the arrangement as a temporary administrative measure to prevent a leadership vacuum, safeguard the association's assets and records, and ensure continuity until free, fair, and credible elections are held. Attorney General and Minister of Justice Alpha Sise praised the outgoing executive for protecting the independence of the legal profession and urged members to reconcile, emphasizing that a united bar was essential to the rule of law and justice in the country. Parliament has postponed proceedings to Monday on the constitutional amendment bill. It followed what our correspondent said were a series of disagreements between MPs of the ruling SLPP and APC on major issues, such as lowering the 55% threshold to 50% for the election of the president. Dennis Razor is the SLPC's parliamentary correspondent and now reports.
For this process to be moved to Monday as if we are continuing in this session, so that we don't have to start everything all over again. So he can make that application, he can move that motion to be carried by the House. Then we will just continue on Friday from where we stopped. On Monday. Because on Friday...
Although citizens had expected for members of parliament to continue deliberations on the constitutional amendment bill and probably pass it into law, Parliament was locked in an intense debate over the Constitution of Sierra Leone Amendment Bill 2025, facing legislative hold-up and deep divisions between the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party and opposition All People's Congress members of Parliament. Among the most contentious clauses lawmakers remained divided over was the proposal to lower the presidential election threshold from 55% to a simple majority of 50% plus one vote, with the APC insisting on maintaining the current 55% requirement. The proposed presidential threshold in the amendment bill provides for a simple majority nationally and at least 20% in 2/3 of districts, with a runoff if the threshold is not achieved.
We are not begging for a power sharing situation. And if we said no to it before now, we still start to say no to it. If the situation of regional balance, the president should do everything possible to have a regional balance in cabinet, correct? But if you tie that to proportional, the configuration of parliament, tell us clearly you want to propose IPR at the executive arm of government. If we accept as a people of Sierra Leone, we accept. If we don't, we will not accept.
Presentation being extended to the executive arm of government is something that we think of. And as my learned colleague has said, I will agree with him as well, but that it could still fit in section 59.
However, the lawmakers expunged a clause that would have permitted independent presidential candidates. Meanwhile, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice Alpha Sise proposed an amendment to Section 59 of the 1991 Constitution, introducing new provisions that will require the President to consider regional balance, gender equality, and minority inclusion when making key appointments.
The President, in appointing ministers and deputy ministers under subsection 1, the President may give consideration as far as practicable to A, the political diversity of Parliament, B, the regional and district balance of the Republic, C, gender equity, and then D, the inclusion of minority groups.
During the deliberations, the Speaker, Honorable Segepo Solomon Thomas, stated that he will not support nor allow any proposal from a member of Parliament seeking to curtail presidential powers, citing decisive leadership, especially in times of national development and crisis.
For all to understand,
be careful.
The office of the President should be a very powerful office in the Republic. Should be a very powerful office. Let's not make this law, perception that somebody else is in power. Make this law put in yourself.
The Speaker's intervention comes as MPs seek to balance the need for effective governance with accountability mechanisms. In the midst of the divisions between members of the ruling and opposition bench, the leader of government business invoked the necessary provisions and suspended Standing Order 59, which states that a prolonged bill can be withdrawn if not debated, giving room for a continuation of the debates on Monday, August 10th this year. SLBC, Dennis Fraser reporting.
Senegal's permanent representative to ECOWAS, Ambassador Nicolas Augustin UK, has officially taken over as chair of the ECOWAS Permanent Representatives Committee, succeeding Sierra Leone's Ambassador Dr. Julius Sandi. The handing over ceremony was held at the Sierra Leone High Commission in Abuja and was attended by permanent representatives, ECOWAS officials, and diplomatic staff. In his inaugural address, Ambassador Yuki pledged to promote dialogue, consultation, and institutional continuity in carrying out the committee's mandate. He also praised Ambassador Sandi for his exemplary leadership. In his farewell remarks, Ambassador Sandi thanked his colleagues for their support and reaffirmed Sierra Leone's commitment to the ideals of ECOWAS. The Director of Food and Nutrition at the Ministry of Health has said that exclusive breastfeeding during the first 6 months of a child's life plays a vital role in building a stronger immune system. Millicent Ali made the statement during the World Breastfeeding Week campaign held in the Western area. The campaign aims to educate and sensitize mothers on the importance of exclusive breastfeeding in promoting the healthy growth and development of children. Abdul Mansari has more.
The World Breastfeeding Week campaign, organized by the Directorate of Food and Nutrition under the Ministry of Health in collaboration with its partners, brought together health workers, stakeholders, community members, lactating mothers, and other participants to raise awareness about the benefits of breastfeeding. Speaking at the event, the Director for Food and Nutrition Directorate, Millicent Ali, said this year's breastfeeding for a sustainable start in life, strengthening what works, underscores the critical role of breast milk in strengthening a child's immune system and supporting healthy growth and development during the first 6 months of life.
Giving a child just breast milk throughout the 6 months of life, from the moment that child is born. If the woman is stable just after birth, the baby is being initiated to the breast milk, and so the baby starts suckling out, and that could go on for 6 months without giving any other food to the baby, even water.
She also dispelled common misconceptions about colostrum, describing it as a baby's first vaccine because of its rich nutrients and immune protective properties.
The yellowish milk is very important, more than every other milk that the human produces for their babies, because that is where the immune system is built. You see, God is so infinite in his own grace that he even brought the vaccination of babies to that colostrum.
One of the participants, Josephine Sako, saying that exclusive breastfeeding has had a positive impact on her child's health. She explained that, unlike her first child, whom she did not breastfeed exclusively, her second child has grown stronger and healthier because she followed the recommended breastfeeding practices.
So where ready for going back as the picking cry at the beer water?
I did not follow the proper breastfeeding practices with my first child, and he is not as healthy as my second child. My second child is very strong and healthy. Everywhere I go, people want to carry him because he looks healthy. I encourage all mothers to exclusively breastfeed their babies for the first 6 months to ensure their proper growth and development.
The Ministry of Health ongoing 300-day activism campaign seeks to reduce maternal and child mortality across the country. Promoting exclusive breastfeeding remains one of the key interventions aimed at improving child survival and securing a healthier future for Sierra Leone's children. SLBC News, Abdul Mansari reporting.
You're watching News Hour coming to you live on SLBC Television in Freetown. We continue with more stories. Statistics Sierra Leone has officially launched the 2026 Sierra Leone Demographic Health Survey training. The nationwide exercise is aimed at providing critical information to support national development planning and improve healthcare delivery. Nyalima Mosiri witnessed the ceremony and now reports.
The 2026 Sierra Leone Demographic and Health Survey is a comprehensive nationwide initiative designed to collect high-quality data on health, population, nutrition, and other key health and demographic indicators. The survey serves as a cornerstone for evidence-based policy making, providing statistical foundation necessary to improve the well-being of all Sierra Leoneans. During the launch, officials from Statistics Sierra Leone emphasized that the survey was one of the country's most important statistical exercises, providing reliable and up-to-date information that would guide government policies, strengthen healthcare services, and support evidence-based national planning and decision-making.
We are laying the foundation for stronger health systems, better resource allocation, and ultimately, healthier communities. Let this launch be a reminder that data is not just numbers, it is the story of our people. And it is our responsibility to tell that story with integrity and precision.
Officials noted the significant progress that has been made to accelerate the implementation process, stating about 188 trainees in their midst that are going to be in the workshop for at least 28 days. They also said they have successfully conducted a questionnaire review adaptation workshop to refine the tools and incorporated a blood pressure measurement module for the first time in the history of the Demographic Health Survey in Sierra Leone. The Demographic Health Survey was officially launched by the Minister of Health, Dr. Austin Demby, who called on trainees participating in the 2026 DHS to uphold the highest standards of professionalism, accuracy, and integrity during data collection, stressing that reliable information is essential for effective national planning.
With the people of Sierra Leone, I want to say at this point in time, I want to officially launch the training for the 2026 Demographic Health Survey.
Data collection is expected to take place across all districts, with final results providing a comprehensive picture of the country's health and demographic situation and informing future interventions in the health sector and beyond. Statistics Sierra Leone also acknowledged the continued support of its development partners in implementing the survey, stressing that the findings will serve as an essential resource for policymakers, researchers, development agencies, and other stakeholders working to improve the well-being of Sierra Leoneans. Reporting for SLBC, Nyalima Mosie.
The Initiative for Capacity Building and Advanced International has officially launched the 10th National Spelling Bee in Sierra Leone, alongside an orientation program for participating pupils. The event, held at the Mathematics Center, Adelaide Street in Freetown, aims to prepare contestants for the national competition whilst promoting literacy, confidence, and academic excellence among school children. Our reporter, Alwyn Roy-Fox, has more.
The official launch of the 10th National Spelling Bee, organized by the Initiative for Capacity Building and Advanced International, brought together pupils, parents, and education stakeholders with the theme Nurturing Dreams, Excellence and Success. The event also featured an orientation session designed to familiarize participating pupils with the competition's rules,
expectations and spelling techniques ahead of the national contest. CEO and founder ICBAI Sierra Leone, Aissata Musuhadin, described the National Spelling Bee as an important educational initiative that nurtures excellence in literacy, builds confidence in young learners, and encourages healthy academic competition among pupils across Sierra Leone.
ICBAI, or Initiative in Capacity Building Association International, is result-oriented organization. We always cater for the betterment of our kids or our children or pupils or students. For us to achieve quality and sustainable education in Sierra Leone.
She also emphasized that the program continues to provide pupils with opportunities to improve their vocabulary, communication skills, and critical thinking, while inspiring a culture of reading and learning. The 10th National Spelling Bee is expected to bring together pupils from schools across the country as they compete for top honors in one of Sierra Leone's leading academic competitions. For SLBC News, Alwyn Roy Fox reporting.
The Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources has concluded its fish distribution exercise, delivering fresh fish donated by Ocean Fresh to schools, hospitals, and vulnerable groups. Stella Bangura tells us more.
A warmer meal can be the first step towards healing. For hundreds of patients, children, and vulnerable people across Freetown, that meal has become more nutritious following the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources completion of a fish distribution exercise. The initiative, supported by Ocean Fresh Fishing Company, forms part of its corporate social responsibility and aligns with President Julius Maada Bio's Feed Salon and Human Capital Development agenda. For many patients recovering in hospital beds, every meal counts. Fish, rich in protein and essential nutrients, is now expected to improve the quality of meals served at several health facilities and care centers. Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Princess Duba, said the donation demonstrates government's commitment towards improving the welfare of Sierra Leoneans.
Our president na talking. We talk about the human capital development, not to book learning no more. You know, say if you go self school, you know get something like belly, not able for concentrate. So it thought I could say it would also able for give people them food, but let them go able for develop their brain. And one of the good food the way they develop the brain are fish.
The final phase of the exercise took the ministry to Rokupa Hospital, the Relocated Persons with Disabilities Center at Bremer Lane, Don Bosco Fambul, the 34 Military Hospital, and the King Haman Maternal and Child Health Hospital. Director of Fisheries, Sheikh Hussein, said that the exercise spearheaded by the minister will be taken to the provinces as the focus is to ensure that the needs of citizens are met.
We are going to extend it to the provinces. In fact, we are targeting boarding home schools. In Freetown, we'll be supporting the schools that have boarding homes. For example, Girls High School, FSSG, will have been there now, but they are on holidays. We're going to also go to the provinces to support hospitals and schools, and also vulnerable groups.
Beneficiaries also welcomed the gesture, describing it as timely and a clear demonstration that government initiatives are reaching those who need them most.
We appreciate the fish so much because when you see their fish business strong.
Management of the beneficiary institutions commended President Bio's vision under the Human Capital Development and Feed Salon initiatives, saying the support will go a long way in augmenting the nutritional needs of patients, children, and vulnerable persons in their care. As the exercise ends, the smile on the faces of beneficiaries was a reminder that beyond policies and programs, the greatest impact is shown in action. Reporting for SLBC, Stella Bangura.
Partners supporting the government flagship Feed Salon program have officially launched the 2026-2027 edition. The program has already secured 20,000 bags of locally produced rice and is expected to provide daily meals for more than 250,000 school children across 5 districts. Development partners also renewed their commitment to strengthening farmers' capacity, improving livelihoods, and building a more resilient agricultural sector in Sierra Leone. Cynthia Kamara has more.
The opening of the 2026-2027 homegrown school feeding year signifies what can be achieved when all hands are on deck in addressing a national priority. These bags of rice represent the beginning of that journey for the coming school year. The school feeding program goes beyond fighting hunger among children in the rural areas to creating an inclusive atmosphere that encourages and sustains children in school. UN Resident Coordinator Sarafin Wakanda confirmed a school meal does not just support a child's education and nutrition, but as well support farmers, rural livelihoods, local businesses, and the wider economy.
The value of the United Nations is not simply in what each agency does individually. It's in how we combine our expertise to support stronger and more sustainable national systems. And homegrown school feeding provides a practical platform for that collaboration.
The official opening of the 2026-2027 school feeding year was described by the WFP representative as evidence of food system that work deliberately for Sierra Leonean farmers, communities, and children. WFP, however, does not see school feeding as an isolated activity, but rather protection and local economic development.
For a child, a school meal can improve concentration, attendance, and participation in learning. For a family, it can reduce the daily cost of sending children to school. For a farmer, regular demand can provide the confidence to invest in production, improve quality, and plan for the next season.
With nearly 1 in 5 people experiencing hunger in Africa, while food insecurity continues to affect millions, the FAO representative, Said A. Bansi, confirmed that food insecurity and malnutrition remains a significant challenge in Sierra Leone, especially among rural households that depends on agriculture for their livelihood. Initiatives as such, the homegrown school feeding helps address both challenges by creating demands for local production while supporting improved nutrition for school children. With a target of 250,000 kilograms, 1,000 has already been secured, approximately 20,000 bags of rice. This will target 250,000 children across 5 districts. Well, this goes beyond education and nutrition to showcasing the resilience of Sierra Leone farmers and the need to invest in agriculture. The homegrown school feeding reminds us that development must be inclusive, while the participation of the partners reveals a coordinated response to national priority that focuses on lasting impact. Each of the partners also used the platform to reiterate their lasting commitment to agricultural production, farmers' capacity, and resilient livelihoods. For SABC News, Cynthia Kamara reporting.
President Julius Maada Bio has officially opened the 4th session of the 6th Parliament of the Second Republic of Sierra Leone. The President outlined the government's legislative agenda and called for unity, accountability, and bipartisan cooperation in the national interest. Margaret Senge has more.
President Julius Maada Bio has called on members of parliament to put Sierra Leone first as he officially opened the 4th session of the 6th Parliament of the Republic of Sierra Leone at Parliament Building, Tower Hill. Describing Parliament as the cornerstone of democracy and public accountability, The president urged lawmakers to remain connected to the people they represent and place national development above political differences. He also welcomed the return of members of the main opposition in parliament, APC, describing their participation as vital to strengthen democracy.
In that spirit, I welcome back the honorable members of the main opposition of People's Congress. Your presence ensures that the voices of your constituents are heard in this house. Sierra Leoneans do not expect agreement on every issue. They expect responsible disagreement, cooperation where possible, and placing the country above party.
The president unveiled his government's legislative priority, focusing on economic growth, public financial management, land and extractive sector reforms, social protection, and stronger public sector governance. He said Sierra Leone's economy continues to recover, citing lower inflation, a more stable exchange rate, and sustained support from international development partners.
Real GDP grew by 4.6% in 2024 and 4.8% in 2025. Inflation fell to 4.4% in December 2025, its lowest in nearly 2 decades.
President Bio pointed to gains in agriculture, education, health, youth empowerment, and infrastructure. He said food insecurity has declined, teacher training has expanded, examination performance has improved, and youth employment programs continues to create opportunities across the country. He added that investing in education and skills development remains central to building Sierra Leone's future.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, Sierra Leone's greatest asset is its people. Our future depends on every child learning and every young person acquiring the skills and knowledge to lead a productive life. The $15.3 million Salon Picking for Land initiative. This initiative gives 29,000 children play-based learning in 87 communities around this country. School feeding now reaches over 1 million pupils in all 15 districts. In 2025, 78% of candidates passed the MPFC and 94% passed the Becker, while the government covered WAS fees for nearly 180,000 classes. These investments must be protected by integrity. Examination malpractice undermines our children and our future workforce. Anyone who enables it, public official, principal, teacher, parent, or pupil, must face the full force of the law.
On healthcare, the president said maternal mortality has fallen significantly over the years, while skilled birth attendance and institutional deliveries now exceed 95%. He said government continues to strengthen health insurance, emergency care, diagnostic services, and the nationwide supply of essential medicines. Addressing youth development, President Bio said government employment programs are creating opportunities in agriculture, construction, public works, environmental management, and digital services. He added that more than 8,000 youth-led enterprises are currently receiving government support. The president also highlighted progress in the energy sector, saying the $2.2 billion Mission 3 Energy Compact aims to increase electricity access from 36% in 2024 to nearly 80% by 2030, bringing power to about 720,000 additional households. old. He said the Enhancing Sierra Leone Energy Access Project has already delivered more than 10,000 metered electricity connections, while Solar Home System now serves another 12,000 households. Solar energy is also powering thousands of homes, more than 200 schools, and nearly 200 health facilities. On infrastructure, the president said government has paved more than 474 kilometers of roads, completed or rehabilitated 23 bridges, and commenced work on 26 major roads projects nationwide.
We have built or rehabilitated 23 bridges and commenced 26 major road projects. These are shortened journeys, lower transport costs, strengthened trade, and improved access to markets, schools, and healthcare. Next is the Cambia-Tompari Kamakui Road. This is going to be supported by $70 million from the Islamic Development Bank to strengthen trade access to markets and services.
President Bio also highlighted reforms to strengthen transparency and accountability through improved asset declaration, procurement oversight, expenditure controls, and the implementation of audit recommendations. Looking ahead, he said governments will prioritize food production, expand access to electricity and clean water, complete key roads and bridges, improve healthcare and education, and create more opportunities for young people. He concluded by urging parliamentarians to put the interests of Sierra Leoneans at the center of every debate and decision, while calling on citizens to work together to build a more prosperous nation. For SLBC News, Margaret Senge reporting from Parliament.
Well, it's now time for a segment, and we start with the international news update.
Hello and welcome to the international news with me, Esther Susanette Bassi. Ukraine said it has hit 2 oil refineries in multiple strikes deep inside Russia, with patrol boats and other vessels, and the Black Sea also hit. President Zelensky said the refineries were struck in the attacks aimed at limiting oil revenues Moscow uses to finance its war. Both Russia and Ukraine have in recent weeks intensified attacks on major cities. The Ukrainian president said that 2 military patrol boats and shadow fleet vessels were hit in the Black Sea, referring to tankers used by Russia to illegally export sanctioned oil. Zelensky said Russia must choose peace, adding that Ukrainian attacks were strengthening chances for diplomacy. Congolese authorities are carrying out Ebola and cholera screening for all 255 passengers aboard a boat intercepted on the Congo River. The Yingfeng 2, operated by a Chinese company, was halted near the capital, Kinshasa. Health Minister Uja Kamba said screening was being carried out as a precautionary measure after a passenger with fever and diarrhea who had got off at an earlier stop had died in hospital. Teams from the Health Ministry and the World Health Organization have boarded the boat and set up a mobile lab to conduct tests. Security services have been instructed to quarantine the Yingfeng 2 offshore in line with WHO standards to prevent potential spread of the virus into the capital. Public health teams remain on standby to act once the boat is secured. Rising waters in Kenya's Rift Valley are reshaping lives and Lake Baringo, pushing wildlife closer to homes and forcing thousands of residents to abandon their land. For years, the lake has continued to expand, swallowing farms, schools, and tourist facilities. The expanding lakes have also increased encounters between people and wildlife. Crocodiles and hippos are now appearing closer to homes and communities as their natural habitats disappear. Scientists warn the nearby Lake Bogoria and Lake Baringo are moving closer together, raising fears of an environmental crisis if their waters eventually merge. And finally, in the international news summary, a mass prison escape unfolded in western Libya after inmates fled a jail amid fierce clashes between rival armed groups. The violence killed at least 3 civilians, damaged property, and heightened security concerns in the country's volatile western region. Libyan authorities and inmates staged a mass escape from Summon prison. The violence spread to Zawiya, home to Libya's largest operational oil refinery, with a production capacity of 120,000 barrels per day. The Zawiya Oil Company urged employees to avoid areas affected by the fighting and take maximum precautions as security deteriorated. Well, that's it for the international news summary from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation Television. I have been your presenter, Esther Susanette Bassi. Thanks for watching. Continue to stay glued to the public service broadcasters.
And now to our final segment, the sports update.
It's the updates that keeps you abreast with sporting activities. I am Mohamed Kouma and welcome to this segment. Grassfield Community produced a set-piece masterclass to dismantle Newcastle Community 5-1 in their second outing of the One Expert sponsored ASPA Inter-Community Competition. Midfielder Mohamed Bangura opened the scoring with a stunning strike before FC Kalon playmaker Saliu Kapesalu Tarawali bounced back from an earlier miss to complete a brilliant hat-trick, condemning Newcastle to their second consecutive defeat of the tournament. Alimami Conte reports.
It was a clash between two sides seeking different fortunes. Grassfield Community entered the contest unbeaten after drawing their opening fixture, while Newcastle Community were desperate to recover from their opening defeat to Ginger Hall Community. The game burst into life from the opening whistle, with both sides creating chances in an entertaining first 10 minutes. Newcastle Community came closest to taking the lead, but goalkeeper Momo produced a brilliant double save to keep the score level. Grassfield responded almost immediately through Kapesalu, whose efforts sailed over the crossbar. Moments later, winger Simeon Kaku delivered a dangerous ball into the penalty area, and although Newcastle Community's defense cleared the initial danger, midfielder Mohamed Bangura was perfectly positioned to unleash a thunderous strike from outside the box into the top right corner to hand Grassfield Community the lead. Kapesalu then squandered a golden one-on-one opportunity to double the advantage, but the FC Kalon playmaker quickly redeemed himself 2 minutes later. He reacted fastest to Mohamed Bangura's corner kick to make it 2-0. Newcastle returned from the break with renewed energy and were rewarded when winger Mohamed Jallo pulled one back to reduce the deficit to 2-1, but Grassfield's dominance from set pieces proved decisive. A clearly worked free kick caught Newcastle Community defense off guard, and Kapesalu capitalized on a goalkeeping error to restore his side's 2-goal cushion. Defender Yusuf Dante Sise then reacted quickest from another dead ball situation to make it 4-1, before Kapesalu completed his hat-trick in stoppage time to seal an emphatic 5-1 victory. After his heroics earned him the Man of the Match award, Kapesalu thanked the Grassfield Community supporters for their unwavering support throughout the competition. Despite the heavy defeats, Newcastle Community's public relations officer Mohamed Jallo praised his players for their fighting spirit against a more experienced opponent. The victory moves Grassfield onto 4 points from 2 matches, while Newcastle's hope of progression now rests on their final group stage encounter.
In another news, the newly appointed Secretary General of the Marketing Committee of the African Boxing Confederation, Gaia Babatunde Lamine, says the Confederation is preparing to stage its inaugural African Boxing Championship as part of plans to reposition the sport under its new leadership. He made the announcement in an exclusive interview with SLBC's Alimami Conte.
I am Gary Babatunde Lami. I'm the newly appointed Secretary General for the Marketing Committee in the Africa Boxing Confederation. I've been working in the background for quite a time with the local boxing association as well as the Africa Boxing Confederation. I've been doing so many things, especially with extensive experience in communication and media marketing, and of course promoting events and the like. So I've been around, and I am hopeful that I'll use those experiences to galvanize the movement of promoting Africa boxing. We are looking forward to the first ever, I would say, Africa Champions League, Boxing Champions League, at the end of the year, or close to, it will extend from the end of the year to early next year, because we are trying to promote actually these talents. We want to showcase them, and hopefully we are praying, and we are bidding that Sierra Leone will host that particular event, and where you will see all talented boxers from across Africa, North, South, and of course Central Africa, that will be participating in that particular event. And we are hopeful that we'll produce so many talents that will represent Africa in upcoming Olympic. And to the audience out there, and of course to promoters, I would say boxing is not a new sport in the globe. It has been around, and it's one of the biggest sporting events throughout the entire universe. And of course, we've seen the likes of so many stars that have cropped up from Africa, as well as America and Europe as well. So therefore, I'll encourage investors, I'll encourage partners, I'll encourage governments to actually invest in sport. We have so many talents around, and especially for Sierra Leone, there are so many young boys, so many young guys who have been aspiring to actually showcase their talents throughout the globe, even for the Commonwealth as well as for the upcoming Olympics in 2 years' time.
That's all for sport in this segment. I am Mohamed Kouma. Thanks very much.
And that was the sports update, and with that we end news hour for this Friday evening. To end the news, the main points again. President Bio has opened the 4th session of the 6th Parliament of the Second Republic of Sierra Leone, outlining the government's legislative agenda and calling for unity and bipartisan cooperation in the national interest. Pabi Fort, Sierra Leone has commenced survey for the expansion of the Masiaka through Makeni to Kabala and Masiaka through Bo to Kenema roads into 4 lanes. And the Peace Commission has announced a plan to recognize individuals and institutions that have made outstanding contributions to peace building across the country as part of activities marking its 5th anniversary. Well, that's all we can share in this edition of News Hour. Thanks for watching. My name is Daphne Zainab Kama. Keep watching the SABC. Good night.